JB here, JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Thursday, June 26th, 9:01 a.m. Talk really quick about the markets. It's gonna be a quick rant. Not too crazy much stuff to talk about with markets right at it, pretty much right at highs here into the all-time highs into the open. I just posted that little slide there. I don't know if I talked about it on the rant yesterday, but that was on Market Watch, right? Record buybacks underpin market rally, like as if the only thing moving stocks higher right now is the buybacks. Like companies stopped doing buybacks for the last 10 years and all of a sudden just started doing them. Joking aside, then they put the amount of dollars, the most amount of dollars of buybacks in billions of dollars, right? Corporate buybacks, the most authorized, and and uh, and you look, and the numbers are pretty close since 2021. And the thing is, markets are up substantially since 2021. What was it, 100% to? I don't know the exact amount, but they have a dollar amount here, which means it costs more money to buy those shares back. So you can make a bear case, you can make a bull case and say, wow, this is actually it hasn't been supported by buybacks because they're buying less shares, right? Now, if they had the amount of notional value of the shares purchased, like how many shares purchased and things like that, maybe that would help. But it's like everybody tries to spin their little web of rationale behind where the market should be. And the market, most times when the bearish folks have been wrong, especially this year, it's been just crazy. So remarkable stuff. I keep saying it the last couple of days. It's like the market needs more headwinds. Although that's my fear is that all these headwinds have kind of been eliminated, and now it's like, yeah, well, at some point the market typically it's just going to sell off, and you're like, why is it selling off? It's like, well, it just maybe it's who knows. So all right, so just never. I always say like it's obvious the market's about risk, right? I mean that's why a stock is trades at its value. And even though it has huge growth, it doesn't trade there because of the risk, right? The risk of geopolitical stuff, recession, all that. So there's always risk for the market. So to sit here and say it's just going to go straight up is, I mean, that's crazy, right? But for now, that's where the trend is. I think we had the 620 on the SPY and then kind of revisit. And I'm not saying we go straight there or we go there tomorrow. And there might not be, there'll be some dips along the way. But I think that's the next area. I was saying yesterday, I think 620 before 580 on the SPY. Also of note, I mean, we're at the upper Bollinger Band, so just got to watch that too. And it was funny, like yesterday, we opened at highs, rallied about 950, and then it was like a melt. And then the afternoon was like a very lackluster session. We were just kind of like melting to lows. It was kind of like, oh, if the Bears had a chance to take control, that was it. And they didn't. And then the SPY closed pretty much flat. It was down 0.02 or like negative 0.001%, somewhere in there. So just pretty remarkable stuff. So that's kind of that. So then, also take a look. Yields keep ticking down, and now you still have more chatter around Fed Chair Powell. So I just think the probability of a rate cut coming September is continuing to increase. That's probably where it goes. But we have PCE data tomorrow, so need that to come somewhat in line, even if it's a little hotter than expected. I think it's like a non-event, right? And it's just funny. I think the market's just going to shake it off. And then last but not least, I'm sure they're going to continue to talk about the U.S. dollar hit new lows yesterday. I think was it the lowest level versus the Swiss franc since 2001. I mean, all these will come out, right? But if you look at the U.S. dollar index as a whole, it's not even back to 2022 levels. So, everybody tries to spin it. Oh, this is a sign that the U.S. is losing its status as, as the number one economy, and it's the U.S. dollar's reserve status. I don't think that's the case, but hey, you never know. At some point, maybe it happens. I just don't think right now. They've been saying it for years and decades. All right, so now just individual names. Obviously, first FedEx. I was looking at FedEx and AVAV at the open. It was on a watch list yesterday, and sure enough, I stared at AVAV at the open, and it went bonkers. Right. So when I was writing the watch list, it was 204. By the time the market opened, it was 224, and then boom, right off to the races. By 10 o'clock, I think it hit 250. I was looking at like the 230s. I'm like, oh, and they just went bonkers. So missed that one. Unfortunately, on Monday, if the premiums were just a little less expensive, I would have had the 230 calls and had some serious multi-baggers. But it is what it is. So then I turned my eyes to FedEx, and FedEx was sitting there at 218 at the open, dipped a little bit, chopped around, and then at 210, at 10 o'clock, started to find some footing. Once it broke 220, I went and got some of those spec lotto calls, able to close some out for 100%, then a little more for 150%, held the rest. And then it gave back the gains from 226, closed at 222. Still think this heads over its pre-earnings high, so 230 plus maybe next week. If it shows some strength today, I might add some next week calls on that. Don't be surprised there. And then some of the other names, so Serve Robotics, disappointing. So of all the things that went well yesterday, or at least the markets over the last couple sessions, it's the small caps keep taking it on the chin. I don't know if it is the weaker U.S. dollar, right? A stronger U.S. dollar sometimes bodes well for some of these companies. Don't have uh, the the geo uh, international exposure, right? When you're more of a domestic company, a stronger U.S. dollar allows you to get like if you're a manufacturer in the U.S., you can get parts and things abroad less expensive when the dollar's stronger, right? It's those parts and stuff that you import are less expensive. Well, I mean, sans the tariffs, but uh, anyway. So you take a look at some of the names in the small cap space just sold off for no other reason. I think IWM was off 1.1%. And I think Serve kind of fell under that umbrella. Unfortunately, back under its 200-day moving average, but bouncing here this morning. It was already gapping in the pre-market. Then it had some news at 7 a.m. Just announced their rollout in Atlanta. It's not a surprise that everybody talked about their strategy and their plans into the end of the year. This is another one of those markets that's rolling out. But if anything, it just adds more attention to the name, which I think is undervalued. People don't realize what it does, and not only that, as it gets into more areas, I remember back in the day, it was like 2013, and this kind of Amazon was still somewhat in its infancy, and I went to Seattle, and like you didn't like I knew Amazon was great, and I used to write positive articles on it, but I didn't know how great it was, so big it was. Amazon Lock, all these things that you never heard of being on the Northeast, and you go out to Seattle and see it, and you're like, wow, Amazon's gonna be big. And now it's like commonplace. Nowadays, you see Amazon trucks everywhere. That I mean, I'm not saying the same here with Serve Robotics, but like people don't see it. And then when they're in Atlanta and they see those little robots, they say, "What is that?" And then all of a sudden they Google it or whatever. Now Chat GPT or whatever it is, and then they find out, oh wow, this company, this is interesting. No debt, plenty of cash, scaling out, last mile service. All these different things that come up, and then you start to see them become momentum names. So we'll see here what happens with Serve, but positive news. Hopefully, it holds that 200-day moving average. Find some green, holds the 200-day. I might look for some more strikes there. Dell and Roku, kind of similar setups yesterday. Both traded to highs. Roku to 85, Dell over 122, and then just gave it back into the close. Both closed flat. Dell's gap in here in the pre-market. KeyBank initiated a neutral rating or a market perform rating today. I don't know if that does anything for the stock, but I think Dell heads to 139 in the coming weeks. I'll continue to look for opportunities to add some more strikes. It's just disappointing those 130 calls. I'm riding it free, but the premiums just can't get going. One of these days it does. So I'll probably take advantage of the low premiums, add some more strikes there. That's Dell. Lemonade, just like Serve, coming under pressure, especially with the small cap selling off, and then of course the huge short interest, still holding the uptrend here. I love Lemonade here. So if it holds 41.50 or so, I think it's off to the races. Thankful to close out those July 11th. Still holding the freebie July 18th, so I'll continue to look to add some more strikes there. There's the Roku chart. And last but not least, Pool all the way up to its 50-day moving average of 301. Couldn't hold that, closed barely in the red. Still lying some strikes here. Premiums are not that expensive there. So if it does start to rally, I've been watching this one for a couple weeks. The instant I take it off my radar, that's when it'll start to run, right? I'm trying to think of some of the other things going on here. Oh, PayPal. So, PayPal all the way up 74 at the open yesterday. Looked like, boom, ready to break out. Uh, and then sold off by 2 o'clock, was down to 72.42. Bounced into the close to 73. It's back. It was over 74 in the pre-market. Hopefully it's a gap and go here today. And that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.